You're tuned in to this week's episode of The Local Lens, the show where we go inside our community's experience with the drug epidemic.
People are getting out there that are in recovery and being a part of the community. And we're just getting to that point where people are starting to get treatment and people are starting to come back to the community, like Tabitha and myself, that are in recovery and are getting involved, and people are starting to see us. And what the problem is now, they're seeing she and I and a few others, but they're not seeing, there's a lot more of us here. Mm-hmm. Now, as this community grows and recovery becomes a bigger thing in the community, there'll be a lot more of us, and they'll start seeing all these people that are changing. That's really going to help with moving us forward, but it's a slow process, and it's things like what we're doing here and our rallies and the overdose awareness events and working with the community that's starting to open people's eyes. But like I said, it is a slow process and it's going to take time. But now that we're getting more people involved, it'll move exponentially faster.
You've been hearing the voice of Tony Barrett, who is the Executive Director of Recovery Montgomery County, and he works with his wife, Tabitha Barrett, who is also going to be on this episode a little bit. These two people are at the center part of Montgomery County's efforts to bring recovery into the forefront, make recovery popular for their community, and they've been really successful at doing that. They run this organization together that just helps people get what they need. So they've been doing this organization for a few years now, and they're really effective because they have that lived experience. So today's episode, we're going to get to know these guys. We're going to hear about what they do and what they think is important. Thank you guys for tuning in to The Local Lens. I am your host, Nate Brooks. This show is from the Powell County Health Department and Kentucky Rio. And we ask that you share this show with people. We want as many people to be hearing these lessons as possible because a lot of people need to be hearing that there is hope. This is The Local Lens. These are our people using our voices, telling our stories, because no one sees it like we do.
My name is Tony Barrett. I'm the Executive Director of Recovery Montgomery County.
I'm Tabitha Barrett. I'm the case law advocate for Montgomery County and co-founder of Recovery Montgomery County.
Nice. And y'all are married?
Yes.
That's what they tell me, yeah.
Woke up one morning and that's how it was?
Actually, it was
yeah, pretty much.
Oh, man, yeah.
It was more, she said, the preacher will be here tomorrow night. When you get off work, we're getting married. And it happened.
And he said, okay.
There you go.
He agreed.
There you go. Nice. How long ago was that? 2019.
So, where are y'all from originally?
Here.
Yeah, Mount Sterling. Lived here, both lived here all our lives, so.
Yeah?
Yeah, so we've been pretty ingrained in this community.
How long have you been doing Recovery Montgomery?
We started Recovery Montgomery County in February of 2019. I'm a very spiritual person, and my faith is a big part of my recovery and who I am. And God put on my heart that I needed to do something to help fix a lot of the damage that I caused in this community. Because in 2008, when I got clean, just before that, I was probably the largest meth dealer in Montgomery County.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I was moving large quantities of meth, and through the grace of God, I actually got arrested. I'm happy about that. I got arrested because it led me into recovery. It allowed me to go to treatment. But I built a relationship with God at treatment. And through that relationship, I would start to have feelings about things. That's kind of the way it is with my faith is, I have a feeling about something. And God had put all over me that I needed to do something. And I got this idea to make a Facebook page. So I prayed about it, and I said, God, if you want me to do this, then you put it all over me. And if you don't, take it off me. I don't want to think about it anymore. And at midnight one night on our friend's couch, because we were living with friends at the time, we were both in early recovery and trying to get back on our feet. And here I am thinking I'm going to go out and save the world. I can't even pay rent. I don't even have a car yet, but I'm going to save the world. But that's the way God works. He puts a seed in there. And so at midnight one night, I said, I'm going to make this Facebook page. And I did. And I woke her up and I said, I just made this page. I said, wouldn't it be great? I'm going to put information on treatment centers and, meeting times and things like that. Wouldn't it be amazing if we got like 50 or 100 followers just to let people in Montgomery County know that there is a way out. There is some kind of recovery because just, in 2018 and 2019, there wasn't a whole lot of recovery in this community. People didn't really understand you could go to treatment. And it's crazy because that 50 or 100 followers today is right around 2,800. And this is for a small town localized Facebook page, and then now we've expanded Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and everything else. So we got a pretty wide social media presence now. But through that, it opened a lot of doors because from my days of hustling, I guess you could say, I'm pretty good at selling myself. And so I would just start trying to make contacts. I would just call people up because all of a sudden, just shortly after this page was made, people were calling saying, "Hey, help me get treatment." And I'm going, I have no idea how to help anybody get treatment.
Yeah.
I knew the intake number for addiction recovery care where I went, but that was the only thing I knew. And it wasn't quick enough. It was, I wasn't satisfied because they'd have to wait days, and by that time they've already changed their mind. So I just started calling treatment centers, and I would go, "Hi, my name is Tony Barrett. I'm the executive director of Recovery Montgomery County," which was not even a thing at the time. But I made it come off like it was really important, Yeah. And I would call and say, I really need a bed immediately. I have a client here that's in crisis, and what can you do for me? And it's amazing how if you give yourself a title and you come at them sounding important, that they automatically think you are important. So all these centers were like, "Oh yeah, let me see what we can do for you. We'll try to move some around. We'll get them on in here." And through that, we built relationships with ARC and Isaiah House and Recovery Works. And the next thing I know, they're calling us and saying, "Hey, can we take you out to lunch? Can we take you to dinner? We want to build relationships with you." And we're still not even a thing. It was just myself and Tabitha and a couple of our friends, Jared and Kayla Wilson, and we're just kind of doing things behind the scenes. And we just kind of took that and ran with it, and greatly elevating our importance and greatly elevating who we seem to be, and that grew over time into something real. And back in this past summer, we were able to turn that into a nonprofit. But we've been blessed through those contacts I made through doing this. Jonathan Gay, who is Addiction Recovery Care's legal counsel, he's head of their legal department. He has done all of our legal work pro bono. So he did all the paperwork, he did all the filing, and took a lot of the weight off us. Most of the load was taken off us by what he was able to step in and do for us. But through that, we were able to legitimize ourselves as a legitimate nonprofit, as a legitimate organization in this community and in the state. And since then, it's just kind of rolled. Bless the Lord Church out of Lexington. They stepped in and said, "You guys are doing great things. We think you need an office." And they said, "We would like to donate you an office for a year."
Well, that's great.
So they pay. They're paying the rent for a year on this office. Shepard Sutter says, "Do you guys have any kind of office furniture?" And we're like, "No." So this beautiful desk, they donated we've got wireless printers and the chairs and the filing cabinets on it. They said, "Here, we've got extra," and they gave it to us to get up and running. And since then, it's been pretty amazing. Since February 2019, as of today, actually, she got 2 more people into treatment today.
Nice.
We've gotten 143 people into treatment, and we've gotten 47 people into sober living.
Nice.
And through this office, we're able to provide a multitude of resources from if somebody in recovery needs help getting their SNAP benefits started, or if they need help getting Medicaid started. I've even got to the point where we've got our own contact in Medicaid. We don't have to call and be put on hold. I got a direct line to Medicaid. No, that's just from thinking I'm important, So, we can help them get everything straightened out. If you need, you're trying to find a job, you can come in, you make an appointment. We'll sit down with you. We'll help you write a resume, and then we'll start going online and applying to help you apply for jobs. Now we're not going to do it for you. We're going to sit with you, and we're going to walk you through it on exactly how to do it. Because a lot of people in recovery, and a lot of people, especially new in recovery, we were drug addicts, and we never lived adult lives. We didn't pay bills. We never had responsibilities, and we don't understand how to do that. So what we do is we try to educate them as we go to where they can learn how to do their own Medicaid. They can learn how to basically not just Medicaid, but life in general, how to call places, how to get in touch with people, how to make things happen, how to do resumes, how to apply for jobs, so that when they walk out of here, they have a considerably larger base of knowledge than when they walked in.
How did you decide that was stuff you were going to do here?
Actually, it really came from my job, my actual job.
Okay.
She runs this office. Tabitha runs this office, and she handles day-to-day operations of recovery in Montgomery County. And I sit more in a supervisory role. But my day job is I'm a peer support specialist and a community support advocate for Mountain Comprehensive Care's Northeast Kentucky Jail Reentry Program in Round County. And we start working with men and women 3 to 6 months before they get released from jail. When they get released, we help them find housing, we help them find jobs, we help them get their SNAP, their Medicaid. And I learned how to do all this through my job there, and I just translated it to be able to provide it here as well. The vast majority of those have been from Montgomery County. Mm-hmm. Now we don't just limit ourselves to Montgomery County. If someone calls from another county, then we're going to help them. If somebody calls from another state, we're going to help them. Actually, in the past 2 months, we placed 7 people from 7 different states in treatment in Kentucky. We're part of the Outlaw Recovery Network, which is across the lower 48 states. And they specialize in placing women in domestic violence situations who are also addicts in treatment. Most of the time, they have to bring them from whatever state they're living in to get them away from seriously bad situations like human trafficking or abusive spouses. And we've helped them place 7 people in the state of Kentucky in treatment from other states. As far away as California and what was it? Was it Colorado?
Yes.
So.
Yeah, so doing some stuff then.
Yeah.
Congratulations. It
never stops.
Yeah, oh, I believe it.
These two are providing a service that is pretty essential for recovery, and it should be happening in every community across the country. Stanton, the town where this show is based from, does have an organization that does similar work to this. That's Spark Ministries, led by Janelle Brewer, and you can go hear our episode with her in it as well. I do encourage you to listen to that. But for every community across the country, having a group of people that does this work is an important piece of the recovery puzzle.
Have there been hurdles through doing all of this over the past 2 years, or mostly support? Or
it's vastly, the majority of it's been support. The community at large has been very good about embracing what we're doing. The health department, once we started getting a presence in the community, they asked us to be a part of the ASAP board and the harm reduction board, and they asked us to help start the quick response team for overdoses. We were embraced by the health department really quickly, and by that happening, that gave us some legitimacy in the rest of the community.
Yeah.
So when we started we've put on 3 rallies during Recovery Month and in September and October in that area, and it's basically to get some experience, strength, and hope is what we like to call it out there to the community. Show people that once an addict, always an addict is not true. That's a stigma that's been pushed. That's completely untrue. That we can recover, and the person that you're looking down upon as this low life or this addict or this criminal, that if they are put in the right circumstances and they are given the right assistance, they can rise above that and become not just productive members of society, but very involved and to be able to bring other people along with them.
This is the reason why we do this show, and it's also the reason why any of these recovery working groups do public events. We're trying to get support for programs like this that are directly leading to people turning their lives around.
With our first rally, it cost us $600. This past rally made us about $3,500 through local sponsorship, local businesses sponsoring, and that's what helps us, keep the lights on in this office. And we pay for sober living fees for people moving into sober living, and we've helped people get dentures, we've helped people get eyeglasses.
Through doing this highly effective and tactical kind of work, they have earned the support of all kinds of government workers around, like their mayor, the city council, Kentucky Senator Alvarado, who we've done an episode with, and also Congressman Andy Barr. They have earned the trust of our elected officials and the decision makers for our communities. And really, they should have earned our trust by now.
The only hurdles we found are honestly just the people in the community themselves. Because the stigma of drug addiction is very strong in this community. People still haven't been able to see that people can change and they can recover from this, and they can go on to be good fathers and mothers and good friends and good co-workers and things. That stigma is still extremely strong in this community. You can see that if you see somebody get arrested for drugs and they post it on the sheriff's Facebook page, and you have all these people coming in, just running them down the road. And which she was one, actually. You can ask her about that story.
It happened to you, or
yeah. I was arrested a year clean by my PO. Yeah. I was actually passing out flyers, and I stopped at the probation's office to give them flyers, and she's like, "Take a seat. I'll be with you in a minute." And I'm like, "All right, what's going on?" And then she calls me back there, and she's like, "I gotta arrest you." I was like, "What did I do? I'm a year clean. There is no possible way I've done anything." She goes, "It's a sealed indictment warrant from a year ago." So I had already taken a drug test that Friday, got baptized on Sunday, got arrested on Tuesday.
That's a weekend, isn't it?
Yeah. I come in, I pee clean, I go into the cell, they offer me drugs, and I'm like, I just need a big book and a Bible and I'll be okay.
Yeah.
So I get that, and I sit down on my mat. The very next morning, they drug test me again. So
it's just there wasn't any trust in you.
No, because they knew what I was.
Yeah.
And that's what they thought I still was. And like when they questioned me at the police station, I was like, y'all really need to read the newspaper. Like, that is not my life no more. Like, I made the headline newspaper for our rally that we are having. Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, you didn't. I'm like, yeah, y'all really need to look into the background of me now, because I'm not that person that I was. Even the jail saw that. A couple of them saw that thought I was still that addict, which is why they drug tested me again. But then I had other people and deputies pulling me out of the cell going, you don't deserve to be here. You need to be back out. You don't need it. Yeah. I mean, even Eric Jones came up to me and was like, you do not deserve to be here.
Wait, who's Eric Jones?
He was the jailer.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and he retired, and he even came up to me. And that's unusual for even the jailer to come up to you and be like, you don't deserve to be here. You need to be back out.
Do you feel like that's a picture of just like where Montgomery County is with like just accepting people who have a past, or what do you think?
Well, what it shows is that nobody is seeing that people change. It takes a whole lot to convince people that and it's understandable. The things we've done in our past, we're selling drugs, we're using drugs, we're stealing, we're lying, we're cheating, a lot of drug addicts, you're stealing your money out of your grandma's purse type of people in addiction, because the drug is taking over. But once that drug is removed and we start working on ourselves and we start putting in that effort to move past it, because here's the thing, most people think you have a drug problem. And but I never had a drug problem. I had a Tony problem. The drugs were a Band-Aid over a bullet wound. And that's the way it tends to be with most people. Once you remove the drugs, what's killing you is still there. In some studies, 80% of drug abuse has been able to be traced back to trauma. In all studies, it's usually above 60%. But the most recent from the University of Southern California was able to relate that about 80% of all drug use is related to some kind of trauma, mainly in childhood and in developmental years. And we can both trace ours back to trauma in our earlier lives. And so if you don't get the help you need to address that, then you'll never be able to move forward. But that if you get in recovery and you do start addressing the things that caused you to use in the first place, then you can move beyond that. But people haven't been able to see that just yet. Montgomery County is very early in building a recovery community. In other communities, like say for instance Scott County, they're about a couple of years ahead of us on where they are, and they built a really strong recovery community. Just a few years ago, they were in the same boat, but people are getting out there that are in recovery and being a part of the community. And we're just getting to that point where people are starting to get treatment, and people are starting to come back to the community, like Tabitha and myself, that are in recovery and are getting involved, and people are starting to see us. And what the problem is now, they're seeing she and I and a few others, but they're not seeing, there's a lot more of us here. Now, as this community grows and recovery becomes a bigger thing in the community, there'll be a lot more of us. And they'll start seeing all these people that are changing. Because, see, I had probably the best thing that I've ever heard said about us at our last rally. One of our friends was standing there, and the chief of police came up to him. And he said, I want you to know those two right there, they're important members of our community.
Pillars.
He said they're pillars of the community. Now, we're drug addicts, we're junkies, we're prostitutes. That's who we were. That's what the community saw before. Drug dealers. I made the front page of the paper for being a drug dealer, and now the chief of police is saying we're pillars of the community. And as more people can in recovery come back to this community, and they start getting involved, and the community can start seeing it's not just Tabitha and I. It's not just the other people that are involved in our organization. That we're not the only ones. There are a lot more people out here, and that's really going to help with moving us forward. But it's a slow process, and it's things like what we're doing here, and our rallies, and the overdose awareness events, and working with the community that's starting to open people's eyes. But like I said, it is a slow process, and it's going to take time. But now that we're getting more people involved, it'll move exponentially faster, the more people we get involved.
In a way, these two people are the bridge between the government side of things and the drug-using side of things. They are the meeting point where they have earned the government's trust to help reach back and bring people from their old lives into a new, healthier life.
What is your relationship like now with your past lives? Do you still keep any contact with people you used to run around or anything?
It's funny because, yeah, I do. A lot of contact with them. Because amazingly enough, some of the people that were closest in my life when I was running and doing all that stuff and all that damage that were right there with me, my ride or dies and that, found recovery. Great. And my two best friends in the madness are my two best friends in recovery. Jared Wilson, who was one of the people that helped co-found our organization, and Chris Reed, who sits on our board of directors. And, that was my two best friends. They found recovery before I did. I just didn't know it, and I hadn't been in Mount Sterling for months, and I come back and I stop at the gas station, and the first person I see is Jared Wilson. He comes walking up to me, and I'm like, really, God? This is a person, here I am coming back to town for the first time, and the first person you're going to put in my path is this guy, Yeah. And he comes walking up, and he said, hey, man, how you doing? I just come from treatment, and I was like, oh, I'm doing great. I got 90 days clean. Yeah. Look at me. Yeah. He's like, that's awesome. I got almost 2 years. Nice. The last time I saw him, we were in Fayette County, and I was going to jail. Yeah. And that was the night he decided to go to treatment, and I hadn't seen him since. I didn't know what happened to him. Because when you're in addiction, people come and go and they disappear for a long period of time. It's either jail or whatever, and you don't know what happened to him. I hadn't seen him. And he's like, man, if there's anything I can do to help you, reach out, let me know. And he was beating me over the head with the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12-step program. You need to do this. You've got to do this. And just so happened the next day I was needing a ride to Sober Living. My ride fell out, and I called him, and he said, I'll be right there. Give me 20 minutes. And that was my first sense of people in recovery out in the world outside of treatment. That, he said, I will be there for you. I called, and he was immediately. And that's the way people in recovery tend to be. People who are in addiction aren't bad people, or people who have had bad situations or been put in bad situations or made some bad decisions. In general, it blows my mind because the people that I know in recovery, and I know thousands of people in recovery, they tend to be some of the best people I've ever met. Because people in recovery are consistently working on themselves every day. Normal people like you've never had a drug problem. You don't think about every day about what have I done wrong today, because that's just not a normal thought process. Normal people, I'm doing a good job trying to be a good person. Well, we consistently at the end of our day look back on our day and said, did we harm anybody? Did we do anything wrong? Do we need to make right any of our wrongs? What have we done today? And how have we affected people today? That's part of being in recovery. That's part of the process. Like we work a 12-step program. That's a huge part of it. A big part of our focus is how can we help the next person? Now, normal people like yourself, if you see an opportunity to help somebody, there's a good chance you'll probably take it. That's, normal people, if they can help somebody, they'll do it. We seek out people to help. People in recovery are always looking for somebody to reach back and pull back out. That's just a part of being in recovery. And it's just something you have to do. They always say in recovery, you can't keep it if you get, you can't keep it unless you give it away. And that's true. We have to constantly be trying to help other people. That's part of our program. And so the program of not just, we work Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's also just the program of recovery is giving back. It's very important that we get back to our community, get back to our families, get back to our friends. And normal people just don't even think about that stuff. But to stay in recovery, you have to actively think about that on a daily basis. It never stops.
So heading into the end of this episode, we are looking at how this lived experience and how being in recovery themselves helps them lead this organization better.
There is no replacement for lived experience. Now with our group, we have addicts at the helm.
I mean, who else better is going to understand an addict than an addict? I mean, if I come up to you and I'm talking to you about, let's say you have a drug problem, but you've also been like human trafficked or in prostitution, escorting, stuff like that. I can sit down with you and be like, hey, I've been through there too. I've lived that life. How can I help you get out of it like I did? That shows them that they can connect to me and talk to me and open up and be able to speak openly about it and not have to hide. And we can work on a way and a program to get them to that better life. Because somebody did that for me. So I want to be able to do that to somebody else.
We're also addicts who are trained. We are peer support certified. We are community support certified, and we've taken quite a few other courses. She's in the process of being a licensed clinician as far as addiction. So it's not like we're just going willy nilly and we're saying that we're addicts, so we should be able to tell you to do it. We also believe in surrounding ourselves with people who have more knowledge than we do. On our board, we have people with more letters behind their name than the alphabet will hold. We have licensed clinicians, we have nurse practitioners, we have clinical social workers. We brought in, the people that we felt could best guide our organization. We can run the gamut of everything we need to be able to help people. But yeah, the actual lived experience though is something that, especially for the person still out there, they don't want to hear somebody tell them that they need to do this or need to do that when they've never been there. Because and I don't necessarily believe this myself, because I know some amazing clinicians who are incredible at their job and they understand us as well as anybody does, but to make that person still suffering an addiction understand that is difficult. So now if you can take that person who's been there and says, hey brother, hey sister, let me take your hand, let me show you, and you can lead them to those people, the people that can make that difference. So the trust is just there right from the beginning, because they know you've been there. I don't know how many people that came up to me, when we're helping them, we're taking them to treatment or something, and go, I can't believe you do this. And to be able to tell them, you know what, I'm not special, I'm not unique. There's nothing that stands out about me whatsoever, except I got out of God's way and I'm trying to help somebody. You can do the same thing. It's there for you too.
Recovery Montgomery County is a bridge between two parts of the community that have been separated for years. If we're going to get over this overdose epidemic, though, we have to have more of these bridges. And it comes from public support, from people in the government to everyday citizens. If you need to contact Recovery Montgomery County, you can email them at recoverymontgomerycounty@gmail.com. Once again, at recoverymontgomerycounty@gmail.com, or you can call them at 859-274-2049. Once again, that is 859-274-2049. Their office is located at number 8 Court Street, Mount Sterling, Kentucky, so you can stop in there as well if you need to. Thank you all for tuning in again today. We really appreciate it. Please tell your friends, send this episode to people who need to hear this message. You've been listening to The Local Lens from the Powell County Health Department and Kentucky Rio. A big thanks to those two groups for putting on the show, and also WSKV for broadcasting it. This is The Local Lens once again. I'm your host, Nate Brooks. These are our people, using our voices, telling our stories, because no one sees it like we do.